All right. My name is Meek. I am here with a book review for God Help the Child by Toni Morrison. Okay, this is my first book review, so please bear with me. This is the first book I finished in a while. It's a short read. I got it for like very cheap. I found the book online for very cheap at Walmart. I got a like coupon, so I was super excited. So I told myself I'm going to finish this. So I finished it in 3 nights. I like to read before I go to bed, and I like to read in the morning. I like to read. I'm learning that I like to read novels at night. Okay. It's great for like healthy screen time too. You know, when you think about it, you don't have to be scrolling on your phone and reading tweets and Facebook and Instagram posts. You can read a novel, something that's going to expand your mind. So that's it's a great read. Like, it's short. Like I said, I read it in 3 nights. I could have read it way quicker than that, honestly, but I was savoring it. I was savoring it. It was just so good. It was Toni Morrison. It was definitely different. Like, this book is very modern. It's set in very modern times. Like, I could say it could be beginning of the 2000s to like 2005 or 6. Like, that's what I was getting from it. But the clear characters are like classic, so you could put them in any time. But from the style of dress to the type of bars and clubs they went to, um, and the cosmetic industry nowadays is booming. In the fact that black women are profiting off of it majorly. It definitely is definitely a sign of the times of more recent. Like, I don't think that would have been in the past. We did have Madam C.J. Walker though. But yeah, it was a great book. I love Toni Morrison. I just can't express it enough. Like, I'm in love with that woman, and she's a gem. It's the second book, honestly, that I read by her, though. Like, I've tried to read Song to Solomon. Like, I'm not saying trying, I'm still going to read it. Like, I just never get finished with it. It's so dense and so much, and it's kind of like psychology in a way. So, I don't know. I didn't get through it. I'm gonna get back to it. But The Bluest Eye is the love of my life. That book inspired me to want to be a writer myself. I wrote my first book in college based off of that, and everyone loved it, and I couldn't have done it without reading Toni Morrison's book. So yeah, I gotta get that book again somewhere. Um, yeah, so let me talk about it a little bit, okay? So follow me. I'm gonna be all over the place. I left a review because I feel like this book was written for me. No, I'm kidding. But I feel like, yeah, it was written for like my enjoyment, for me to consume and to understand even my experience as a black woman and the experiences of black women around me. So yeah, let's get into it though. Let me stop talking. Okay. So this book is about, essentially, the main character is Bride, but I would go ahead and say that the book is about every character within that book. So you have Lula Ann, who calls herself Bride. Her last name is Bridewell, but she took the name Bride. I guess it's a more fresh name. She's a girl from the South, who Lula Ann is a Southern name. Her mom's from the South. Somebody from the South. I can't go back and open my book because I'm using my phone to record, and my book is an ebook that's in Walmart app. That, yeah, but so I gotta try to remember it off memory. Yeah, but yeah, so Lula Ann, she's a central character. She's the daughter of a woman named Sweetness. Of course, her mother is a white passing black woman who kind of detests that her daughter Lula Ann, aka Bride, has dark skin because, of course, internalized racism, which we call colorism, is the hatred for darker skinned people. Right? Is the fact that darker skinned people are more marginalized within the black community and are seen as less valuable, less beautiful. We hear the popular term that you're pretty for a dark skinned girl, for a dark skinned person or woman is beautiful. I feel like colorism really affects black women, darker skinned women, more than men, because men are still fetishized for being tall, dark, and handsome. You don't really hear tall, you know, dark women. You don't really hear that same slang and saying for black women. And yeah, and it's still a trope for masculinity. I learned a lot about colorism through a lot of intelligent black women. So a lot of my rhetoric comes from them too. Okay. So anyway, so yeah, so it's the hatred for darker skinned people, the fact that they're seen as less valuable, ugly, and simple. The simple reason is because they're just the closest to Africans. You know, Tupac said, the darker the flesh, the deeper the roots. And that's what it is. I think it's all from envy. Because, I don't know, I feel like darker skinned people are the purest. They're what we come from. They're, even though Africa is full of all colors, but, you know, blackness is associated with Africanness. Africanness somehow got associated with being slaves, with poverty, with aggression and violence, and for some reason, I guess, ignorance. I don't know how. Like, you can really define someone's IQ based on their skin color. And black people, we do it to each other. And so you see this is that the mother, she kind of trains her daughter to be, I guess, to be liked in a society, you have to be invisible, or you have to move like this and like that. You have to talk like this, like that. So people will like you, accept you, won't reject you. All the while she's rejecting her and like not liking her. And I thought something else was interesting. I'm gonna get to something else too, but the character Lula Ann experiences a lot of violence, and violence, how it's associated with blackness. It's like colorism. It kind of like justifies the violence against darker skinned bodies. Like you'll see, like Lula Ann was abused by so many people in the story. It's like heartbreaking, okay? So you have her mom, which is her mom never showed her affection. She said she liked when her mom hit her because that was the only time she touched her. And like, that's so deep. Like, you know, it's so deep how that you can, if she's accepting, if she wants her mom, yearning for her mom just to show her affection, even to the point where if she's hitting her, she accepts that as affection or being touched because her mom never holds her, which every child needs. It's like, if she grows up, you know, she could easily been, you know, a victim of domestic violence, which she wasn't, which is great. Lula Ann also experiences violence in a few parts of the story, with almost in every situation she did. But yeah, so colorism, like racism, is not as systematic, but it does justify the violence on darker bodies, which we see Bride has experienced a lot. No one thinks twice about inflicting violence on darker skinned people, right? No one thinks twice. That's super sad. And I could even go deeper than that. I feel like violence, how violence in how sexualization of black women is violent, right? Because when we're only represented as like sexual people, you know, we're seen as like devious, and so when we get raped, it's like it's usually blamed on us. But that didn't happen in the book with her. But you know, it's just a part of like colorism. Colorism is very deep, and yeah. I was a sociology major, so these type of things I always think about. Okay. I got some more notes in here. All right, so you have Lula Ann. Okay, Lula Ann. Also, some things about Lula Ann. Beautiful, darker skinned woman. Educated, business oriented, entrepreneur. Just a badass film woman in a story. Okay, so shout out to Toni Morrison for making that character very successful in everything that she does, and even in her fun life. But she doesn't make the best decisions in some cases. But that comes from, you know, just being a scared little girl. And this is about how, you know, Lula Ann's trauma from childhood, from girlhood, does manifest itself in womanhood. She's making a lot of decisions out of fear. She's not defending herself, you know. When some people get abused, some people turn. It's two things you can turn. It's two ways you can turn. You can either fight or you can flight. Some people grow up, they be fighters, they're defensive. Some people run away from that stuff. And actually, a lot of people in this book are running away from a lot of things, running away from their traumas, running away from anything that reminds them of their trauma or the pain that they previously felt. And I think that's deep because, like, in this day and time, a lot of personal evolution is based on healing. So to heal things, you gotta face them, you gotta stand up to it, and we definitely get this. We definitely get that in this story, and I like that in this story that is done through relationship, and you know, because we can't heal alone, and we do go on that journey alone, but everybody needs to heal. We all can help each other, you know. We can call each other out on our shit, you know, and that's what this couple did in the story, and that's what a lot of people was doing to each other, even if it didn't come at them the way it wanted, you know, the way it wanted to be. They healed from their interactions, those painful interactions, those uncomfortable interactions with each other. Okay, so you have Sweetness, and names in this story is very important too as well. So Sweetness is her mother. I talked about that. Her father is really absent. He left the picture, another flight. He left the picture, according to Sweetness, her mother, because the baby was dark skinned and they both were light skinned. And who's to say that he was wrong? Maybe the baby wasn't his. You know, from her, she said she swears she never stepped out on him, but I mean, you don't know. He left, and she said she's forced to take care of this dark skinned baby. Okay, I'm gonna get back to her. All right, then we have the character Booker, who's her boy, or he's her lover. I would say her lover. You know, he does love her, the idea of her physicality. He loves, I can see that he loves her mind. He loves her drive, her ambition. He says that he liked that she had somewhere to be every day. And I understand that, because, you know, you can admire people that's always out in the world and doing their thing. And, you know, it's, you know, I can tell that he admired her. And he wasn't jealous of her, and I love that about that. You know, I love that about him. He wasn't ever trying to break her down. He loved her blackness, and that's what I love. He loves her blackness. He, you know, he was a writer, a poet. So he kind of described in a very poetic way, and it's kind of like Toni Morrison being poetic. So I think that's really cool, right? But he's like describing her as like the night, and how he holds the night in his hand when he's holding her, and he looks in her eyes, and they're the stars. And I don't know, I just think that was so beautiful because it showed the depth of Lula Ann Bride, and she didn't even see herself in that way. You know, she kind of let people influence her, not in a bad way. Even a guy that, you know, gave her the idea of to wear white, and, you know, like she should wear white because it'll turn heads, and light-skinned women or non-black women, they would have to be naked to get the type of attention she gets, if, you know, just from her wearing white. Yes, she was beautiful, but I watched another book review, and the lady was saying, like, she felt that meant, you know, she was trying to neutralize her color, because a lot of darker skinned people have been told that they can't wear colors. Like, you look like they compare darker skinned people to animals if you wear red lipstick, or if you wear pink lipstick, or pink hair, this hair. I know personally, I remember being at the bar with one of my coworkers, and we went out to eat. No, we went out to a bar for her birthday, and it was this dark skinned woman that I seen across the bar, and I just thought she was so dope. She had like this light pink hair, and she had this really, really chocolate skin. And I was just like, I love her hair. Like, it's so pretty. Like, you know, and she looked at her, and she's like, I don't know, she's just too dark. She's just too dark for that. And you know what? I felt, I didn't even check her for it. I didn't want to be the Debbie Downer, but I see that there are people that think like that, you know, like colors are limited to a certain part of the spectrum. Interesting, this world we live in. And that was a black woman that was at the bar with me. But okay, so we have Booker, her boyfriend. Booker also, I think Booker is a very in-depth character. You get a lot of understanding about him. you know, based off the little story that we know about him. Like, you know, it seems like he come from a very culturally rich family. Like, they listen to jazz, they listen to Ella Fitzgerald. Like, he loved Louis Armstrong as a kid. Like, how many kids can say that? So very cultured, very he come from a very family oriented family. Like, they had banquets on Sundays, and on Saturdays they asked each other, you know, what do you know is true, and how do you know it's true? And two, the second question was, what is a problem in a world, basically, or how can it be fixed, or something like that. So stuff that really challenges the kid's mind, and this makes thinkers. This that type of parenting creates critical thinkers. It creates missionaries. You know, it creates revolutionaries, and even if it's within your own life. So, you know, Booker was the man. But at first, when you see him in a book, you just like, okay, like, he's the type of guy that's here and there. He's gone. He's, you know, he's a wanderer. And he was a loner, a wanderer, but he was very educated. What we learned later in the book, very educated, bachelor's, master degree, you know, went to universities. You know, he had emotional depth. You know, he lost a brother as a child, and he seemed to really understand. You know, he wasn't just mad that he lost his brother. He was mad at how it happened, and he was even trying to like create a scholarship fund in his memorial. I mean, yeah, in his memorial, you know, to commemorate his brother. Like, you know, this guy he's still a kid, but I'm sure he was like in college still. And to commemorate his brother, and his family wasn't with it. And, you know, he was still trying to keep the legacy of his brother alive. I think that's what that meant. But his family, I guess his father felt like that was like, that the fact that he came up with the idea was an attack on his manliness or masculinity or his authority as a father. Like, you don't get to make those shots. Or maybe his family was still grieving, like the father said, like everybody grieves different. Maybe they wasn't ready for that. But anyway, Booker felt some way, and he left his family, and I guess he really didn't talk much to him. He did keep in touch with his siblings, but yeah, I thought that was interesting, you know, that he left, and his family didn't really chase after him or try to stop him or nothing like that. But he did have a very supportive family member, which was his aunt, who encouraged him to keep his brother's memory alive. And I feel like she was that feminine energy, that divine feminine energy. And yeah, she kind of helped make him a man too, because she kind of, it's some kids that wouldn't understand that, but some kids that would, because they be old souls. So he understood that I gotta keep him alive, and it kind of ate him up. You know, when we don't let things go in their time, it does eat us up. And I think that's a very important part of trauma. How, yeah, you hold on to it for so long, it can eat at you. It can break you. It can make you feel alone. It can keep you from connecting. So connecting is a big thing, and a lot of disconnects in the stories. So we also have some Sweetness Queen. I talked a little bit about. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about her. We have Lula and Bride, of course. We gotta have her best friend. Her best friend name is not Sylvie, Evelyn. So white woman is her best friend with dreadlocks. And I'm only saying she got dreadlocks. I'm not even only saying, I noticed it too, but in the book, notes and questions that ask you at the end, or at least the app that I got, it asks, was this important? That she has like locks. I guess it does tell something about her character, a white woman that does have locks. We hear a lot about this conversation now with cultural appropriation, right? With white women wearing cultural hairstyles. The fact that she's in a big corporate job wearing dreadlocks, you know, a lot of black women don't have that privilege. Like, that's seen as unprofessional, as unkempt. So, you know, a white woman still get to work at this high level corporation with these locks. Her best friend is a black woman. That's cool, but she was envious of her. That's what we learned. She was envious of her best friend. She was even trying to sleep with her boyfriend. So, and her black boyfriend. She just felt so entitled. She felt so entitled that she knew that he was going to sleep with her. It was interesting. I know some white girls like that too. That's you know, they just feel like they just have this power over black men sexually, or they just feel like black men are so sexual that they won't deny a sexual past at them. They just want to have sex all the time, and especially with them, like they're not to say they're doing them a favor, but like it's a privilege to sleep with a white woman type shit. I didn't mean to cuss, but I'm sorry. But yeah. So that was interesting because she made a lot of little statements about like how boy crazy Lula Ann was, and how she's right in every area of her life, but boyfriend she weak too. Like, we all have our weaknesses, you know. It's not being a lover and a fighter, a person who fights for love is definitely not a bad thing. I think that's actually beautiful that Bride goes after love and believes in love, because she wasn't shown a lot of it, you know, especially by her mom, and she didn't know her dad. And she wasn't stupid with me, and she actually did let them go. But Booker was something special to her, you know, was something special to her. So I really learned a lot about how she let things go in this book. I'm gonna take some of that with me on my journey as well. The little girl Rain is a big part of the story as well. Rain is a little girl who found Bride when she was going to find Booker in a town called Whiskey. She found her, like, you know, in bad shape. She was hurt, and you know, the little girl, like everybody in the story, was just giving her stares. And that's a lot of things that a lot of dark skinned people, I'm sure, experience, black people, period, the stares. But she was just staring at her for a long time, like, what is this? Like, she was just exotic or something like that, which is annoying when you're black. Trust me, it really is. But she ended up going to get her help. She went to get her help, and you know, she went to get her dad, or the man that took her in after. We learned later in the story that Rain was a victim of child forced prostitution, sex labor. Yeah, but this little girl was very soulful, very in touch with her past. She knew how stuff went down. She knew she was street smart. She wasn't no punk. She was a badass little girl, you know, like, she's gonna grow to be like a very cool woman if this was in real life. But she connected to Rain. Rain, we're gonna get to symbolism of names, but Rain, they called her Raisin. I think the raisin was cool, you know, the raisin in the sun. What happens, you know, to a dream deferred. You know, Langston Hughes' poem, he said that one of his poems became a great stage play, screenplay, whatever. But yeah, so Rain she informed Bride of her story that, you know, she bit the man's penis who tried to stick it in her mouth, and her mama kicked her out and gave her a sweater, and she threw her out in the rain. And rain is very symbolic in the story. A lot of life-changing things happens when it rains, and these characters are walking in rain. Booker as well, when he left his family, you know, after he got. So yeah, Rain informed Bride of her story. Yes, Rain has experienced sexual abuse, sexual violence. She's experienced, you know, bad parenting, bad mothering from her mom. Her mom, I don't know if her mom was on drugs or anything like that, but you selling your daughter for sex, something got to be wrong with you. So I thought it was interesting that Bride, I thought it was interesting that, this will be a spoiler alert, but Bride met someone who actually did experience sexual violence and did, you know, was a witness to her own. You know, it came out that Bride actually lied about the teacher raping, you know, kids. Well, not to say that the teacher didn't do it, but Bride definitely didn't witness it. She just lied to get her mom to hold her hand. She just lied to get her mom to hold her hand. And that's really, you know, sad that she lied. So then I had to ask myself, well, was that the reason why the lady beat her up? Because she lied on her? You know, these questions you have to figure out yourself. But I like that nobody was really too hard on Bride. for, you know, for the lies told in her past. But for me, I'm like, dang, you kind of ruined that lady's life. Like, lying, like, this lady did some time in jail, okay? Like, no wonder why she kicked her ass. But, yeah, so that was pretty interesting. Also, yes, the lady that beat up the lady that beat up Bride, in this town called Decagon. I'm sure that has some symbolic meaning, Decagon. But yeah, I can't open my book to do it. But yeah, so Bride had a guilty conscience. Bride had a guilty conscience. She went there like she was really just trying to help this lady get her life together and this and that. What she really was trying to do was apologize to the woman without telling the lady that she lied on her. You know, guilt. Kind of like how white guilt is. How they'll befriend black people or take in black kids to not feel so guilty for all the privilege they have or the sins of their fathers and mothers, you know. So guilt it plays a part. You know, a lie can ruin a lot of things for a lot of people, you know. Also, this story, a lot of sexual violence against children in this book. Actually, Evelyn, Lula Ann, Bride's best friend, said that her uncle molested her, raped her. Sad. She said her mom was, I guess, an alcoholic, and it made her vulnerable to experience that, you know. Very unfortunate. And Booker's brother, that's how he got killed. He got killed by a child rapist. And this guy was seeing like how they do all white men, right? They give him this, oh, he wouldn't hurt a fly. He was so nice. He was such a good guy. He was, you know, but he wasn't. You see how they paint white men. They don't paint them as killers and as predators, you know. But Booker, like, no, y'all got him wrong. He killed my brother. He had the children's body parts in cans, you know. This supposed to be nice guy. What else was in this story? So my first book review. I think I'm talking a lot. I'm actually happy about this. Okay, the teacher. So the teacher said Bride released her from her own prison. She said after she beat Bride up, she just cried. She cried. She never cried in so long. So she freed her. Bride actually did help her, but not in a way that Bride thought she was going to help her, by giving her money and, you know, all these things. No, she helped her by releasing. Bride in this story, okay, this is another important part. Bride is returning to a little girl physically in his story. Like, her boobs are getting small. Says she's losing underarm hair. She's not having her period like a woman would. Her earrings, her earlobes, piercings are being taken out of her ears. So she's returning to a little girl. And it's different things that's causing it. But I think in the beginning, when she's like going to see this woman, you know, that's when she discovers that her she doesn't have any pubic hair down there. I don't know. I think that's when she starts revisiting her past. She starts revisiting her past, the guilt of her past, probably thinking about it, and these things start happening. She has to face some things. She has to face some seeds that were planted in her childhood. So I'm sure she felt guilty lying on someone. I'm sure she had to revisit her mom. She had to revisit the pain of her mom, probably telling her that she's not good enough, basically, because she's dark skinned. She has to be invisible. Her mama don't want her calling her mother. Like that's just a huge disconnect. Like I cannot understand. This woman raised you your whole life and you can't call her mother. You have to call her sweetness even though she's like very bitter. That's a lot of things. Booker leaving her, you know, I felt like that was when she became a woman. Like, you ain't just let this happen like, oh, I'll find another. No, she found something that she values. Even though it was about standing up for herself, you know, as a woman, you got to stand up for yourself. You got to fight for what you want, fight for what you love, you know, go after what you love and want. And I thought that was beautiful, you know, how she stood up to Booker. And I don't know, she really opened up to him. I like Bride. I like this character a lot. But yeah. So, but I wanted to say that I don't think she actually was really like losing her breast and her pubic hair and her earrings, her earlobes was gone. I don't think that. I think it was dysphoria, body dysphoria. I've definitely dealt with that. I'm gonna read y'all the definition of it. A lot of women actually suffer through this, but I'm sure stress can cause it as well. So it's a mental disorder characterized by the obsessive idea that some aspect of one's own body part or appearance is severely flawed and therefore warrants exceptional measures to hide or fix one's dysphoric part of one's figure. Like, I'm open up to y'all. I had like an eating disorder for a long time. I thought I was just really, really fat, and I wasn't. But when I looked in the mirror, that's what I saw, and that's what a lot of, you know, a lot of women experience at some point in their life, maybe men too, but I can't speak for them. Yeah, I think she was just tripping. She was tripping. I really thought she was gonna lose it when she smoked that weed with the Rain's step parents, but you know, that would have been cool if she would have added that in there. Like, she just started tripping. I think that's why the lady kind of looked at her when she was hiding her breast, like, why is you hiding? Like, why do you feel like she probably didn't